Hello there. My name is Justin Robinson, and this video is going to be an introduction to what I do here in my YouTube videos, in my live streams on Twitch, in my recordings, and in my performances and commissions, which is ambient music and ASMR, sometimes done together and sometimes done separately. So if you're not sure what either of those terms mean, don't worry. We're going to break them down, and before we get started, I highly recommend getting a pair of headphones, earbuds, so you can get the full effect here. So let's start by talking about ambient music. This is a style of typically instrumental music that is generally soft, slow, with an emphasis on texture and creating an atmosphere. This term was coined by Brian Eno on his Music for Airports album, and my approach to ambient, which you can hear right now, is pretty heavily inspired by his works and his approach. I often work with layers of sound, sometimes from the same instrument, sometimes from different instruments, that loop at varying time intervals. So one loop may last just a few seconds and repeat often over and over again, while another may last for minutes at a time with a lot fewer repetitions. And the result of this method of composing and recording is soundscapes that are always changing and in motion, but also grounded in the set notes and textures used to create it. So one of my guiding principles is to create music that is equally enjoyable through active, attentive listening as it is through passive listening, just having it on in the background. This is a pretty common approach to ambient music. And when I'm creating, sometimes I start with a mood that I'd like to convey. Sometimes I'm taking inspiration from certain imagery or trying to create music and sounds that fit and reflect and complement a particular environment. But ultimately, the most important thing for me when I'm creating to understand is the context in which the listener will be listening. Is it being heard in an art gallery? Is it being heard in a yoga studio? Is it being heard through a pair of earbuds as the listener falls asleep? Whatever context I'm working from is critical to shaping the music, the sounds that I'm using, the scales that I'm using. So I enjoy working in several different contexts and taking inspiration from different environments and images and creating music that is complementary to those pieces of inspiration. Now, the other part of this is ASMR, which stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. And this is a physiological response to certain stimuli, often physical, auditory, or visual stimuli. And that sensation is typically described as a tingling sensation, often around the neck, scalp, shoulders, and the spine. Not everyone feels this sensation if this sounds totally foreign to you. And people that do feel it, they do so to varying degrees. Now, ASMR as a genre largely consists of audio and video meant to trigger that response, and that can include very soft speaking, much like what I'm doing right now, very commonly whispering, often hand motions, certain hand motions, tapping, crinkling, mouth sounds, and just so much more. As a genre and as an art form, ASMR is still very new, and there are so many incredibly talented creators exploring that space right now. So it's pretty exciting. And even people who don't feel that physiological response of ASMR often still find the sounds and the visuals associated with it to be relaxing, calming, and even therapeutic. So even if you don't feel the sensation of ASMR, you might find that you still enjoy the content of it as a genre. So both of these, ambient music and ASMR, as genres, as art forms, are really good examples of what's called functional art, and that people often listen to them in order to relax, to focus, to meditate, to manage their anxiety, and other practical applications, practical uses of these art forms. In terms of sound, ambient music, not always, but it's often made to feel kind of far away and atmospheric. And for ASMR, the sounds are often made to feel much closer to the listener. So sometimes I'm really focused on one or the other, ASMR or ambient music. Again, depending on the context that I'm working from or within. But with a little bit of smart mixing, I think that they really complement each other very well and are fun to play with and combine. Really, they're both fun ways of playing with sound, for me at least. So here on YouTube and in Twitch and in my live performances, I primarily use a technique called live looping or live layering. That's what I generally like to call it, live layering. And with this technique, I'm improvising these long, slowly evolving soundscapes by recording a sound and having it loop over and over, and then perhaps manipulating that sound, manipulating those loops over time, fading sounds out and fading new sounds in. Other times, such as in this video, I record sounds piece by piece, layer by layer, both instruments as well as these ASMR-inducing sounds such as tapping and crinkling, those sounds that I mentioned earlier, and then mix them together in a more controlled and specific way to achieve whatever outcome I'm looking for. So less improvisation, more planning and working the sounds out. So for anyone still listening, whether you're new here, whether you've been watching for a while, I hope this was a helpful breakdown of what it is exactly that I do, and maybe gives you some context that will help you enjoy it more, or just understand what's going on a bit better, or why I do the things that I do. Or maybe you've just got this on in the background right now, and you're just enjoying the sounds, the music I've created, and a slow, soft speaking voice. In any case, whatever your reason was, thank you for watching, for listening, and until next time, bye for now.